So first of all, my name is Jolene Smith, and I'm the Digital Communications Associate for the League of Women Voters of Texas. I've been with them since February. And before that, I did a lot of other things around marketing and communications. So I've been doing marketing and communications for quite a while now. This is a presentation just about the basics, social media 101. One of the things that we're going to start doing in the new year is we're going to start having monthly communications meetings for local league leaders who want to participate. You know, they have the president's meeting, the treasurer's meeting, a membership meeting. So we're going to start having a communications meeting. And during those communications meetings, that's when we'll get to have introductions of people, and we'll get to share a lot more, ask a lot of questions. We're also going to have short training presentations in each of those meetings based on a different topic each month. For instance, something specifically about Facebook or Twitter, something specifically about creating graphics, you know, maybe creating flyers. So we'll have a lot more opportunities to go into detail about a lot of different topics in the upcoming year in these communications meetings, which I'm very excited about. So let's go ahead and get started with the social media 101. I do want to introduce one other person that's here with me today, and that's our intern, Ellis. So Ellis, if you would like to just say a brief introduction of yourself, and then we'll get started.
Yeah, hi, I'm Ellis. I actually just graduated from UT, but this semester I've been a intern for Jolene, helping with communication stuff, and I added a bit about political communications to the presentation today. So,
thank you, Ellis. She's been great. She's been really helpful, and I'm excited about the political communications piece that she's adding at the end. It's really good information for us to know. So let's go ahead and get started. I'm going to share my screen. All right, so social media 101. First, I wanted to go over a few resources that you have available if you don't already know about them. Again, this presentation will be sent out at a later date along with the video recording. So all of these links will be available to you. The first one is our communications on the LWVTX website. You can just go to League Management and Communications to get there. And under Communications Basics, you have a lot of information. You have general guidance and brand standards, publicity tips, templates, talking points. I'm not going to go through all of this because I'd like you to be able to explore it on your own. I'm happy to answer any questions after the training is over about anything related to the website or what we're discussing in the training. You also have social media, websites, and get out the vote. So those are other tabs that you can click on. I don't want to go into, again, too much detail into this, but hopefully all of you have been to this page. If you haven't, I suggest visiting and just playing around and exploring. The next thing is, our social media playbook. That's another thing that you can access from that communications page. I did not create this. This was created before my time by Yvonne Wade Sanchez, who used to be the communications person on the board. And she did a lot of wonderful things for social media with League of Women Voters of Texas. But she put this together, and it's got so much great information in it. So whenever you have a little bit of time, I highly suggest you read through it. Next, the LWVUS brand standards and logo files. That's where you're going to be able to find the different colors, because, you know, we have specific colors that we use. The brand standards, you know, League of Women Voters US wants us to adhere to certain standards so that we're all pretty equal, or not equal, consistent in, you know, what we're putting out there to the world. And then you can also get all of the logos. So all of that is there. The next one is the Vote 411. Brand standards and logos, same thing. You know, they have specific colors for Vote 411 as well as specific logos and how and when you can use them. So that's there. And then the LWVUS Flickr site, which is where they just store a lot of different photos that they've taken. The cool thing about this is you're allowed to use any of these photos. So if you wanted to promote Vote 411, you could go to, you know, one of these, I'm trying to find one of my favorite ones. I don't know, but here you've got a lady who has Vote 411 and she's passing out some information. You could use this on your website. You could use this in social media, on a flyer, whatever you want, you're allowed to use as a league of the League of Women Voters. You're allowed to use any of the League of Women Voters US Flickr photos. And then the last one is something that I had put together for this training. That is a PDF of the best practices, and it goes into some detail. We're going to go over a lot of this, but we're not going to have time to go over every single one in detail. But here is the list of the best practices. All right, so next we're going to look at the social media platforms. The first one is Facebook. I have it linked to the League of Women Voters of Texas Facebook page. So Facebook is a big one. I'm gonna list all of them and go back to each one separately. So then Twitter, again, it links to the League of Women Voters page. Instagram, TikTok. And we just recently started a TikTok account. Thank you to Ellis, our intern. She's the one who got it up and started. And you can see that it's her lovely face in all of these videos. I don't know what we're going to do to keep it up when she's gone. I guess we'll have to wait till we get new interns because I don't know if I want my face on there. And then those are the only ones we're going to be talking about today in the overview. But there's also YouTube. And again, this links to the League of Women Voters YouTube page. One thing I want you to kind of notice is that any one of these that has a header, you notice they're all the same. That one doesn't have a header. That one doesn't either. But you'll notice that any one of our accounts that has a header, they're all the same. So if I change this out, which I probably will do in the new year, I'll change out all of them to match, because that's one thing that's important about social media is consistency. You'll notice on all of them, our logo is the exact same one every single time. Same logo on every single one. There are times like during Pride Month, we change it to the LWV, like the rainbow one where it has the LWV. That way it shows that we're supporting the LGBTQIA+ community, but I'll change it on every single platform because you want people to automatically see like that header, that logo, and go, oh yes, I know who that is. That's brand recognition, very important. All right. And then there's also a lot of other social media platforms. We are on LinkedIn and Pinterest as well. Then there's also Nextdoor, Snapchat, WhatsApp, and so many others. I think that one of the things we talked about, we had started a social media squad a couple months ago, and we haven't really done a whole lot with it yet. But one of the things that came out of that was that a lot of the individuals could post things on Nextdoor. It's not really for the organization, but individuals can use it to promote the League of Women Voters and especially your local leagues into your neighborhood, basically, everybody who's your neighbor. All right, so let's talk about Facebook and some best practices. The best amount of time to post is at least 3 to 5 times a week. You can post more. Some people like to post 2 times a day, but I think minimum 3 times a week if you want to maintain any sort of momentum. If you like skip a week or 2 weeks, then you're going to start to end up losing some of that momentum and not getting as many views as you had been getting. So on Facebook, minimum 3 times a week. And that sometimes could be sharing things from the League of Women Voters Texas page, the League of Women Voters US page, or other partner organization pages. So it doesn't have to be original content in all of those posts. But 3 to 5 times is the best amount of times to post. You want to try to post diversified content if possible, photos, videos, sometimes just text or articles, links. People don't want to, like, one thing I found is like we post a lot of photos, which ends up working well for us. But whenever I throw in something extra, like a video or an article, a link, it actually gets a little bit more because people are like, oh, something different. So if you can diversify your content, great. When sharing links or posts from another page, be sure to include at least 1 to 2 sentences for context. What I mean, let me see if I can show you here. Okay, so here's a great example. We wanted to share the information from the LBJ Women's Campaign School about their, what do they call it? Oh, well, the campaign school. That's what they call it. They call it the campaign school, but it's there to train women to run for office or be campaign managers. So we wanted to share their content. If I had just shared this, right, just exactly what they had posted with their graphic and just shared their post, it would not have gotten as much attention, mainly because I didn't tell anybody what it was or why they should care about it. Like, when I'm sharing something from someone else's page onto our page, you need to give your fans context. So that's why, and this one's a little bit long, but we have context of what exactly it is and why they should care about it. A lot of times it's good enough just to post, here's like another one, just 1 paragraph, or here, just 1 sentence. So anytime you're posting from someone else's page, though, always include at least 1 to 2 sentences of context. When sharing links or posts from another page, be sure to include at least one. Oh, that's what we were talking about. Don't share a previous post within 48 hours. So if I post something about, let's say, registering to vote, I can share that post, my post that I posted on my page again, but don't do it within like a couple days. Like, wait at least a couple days before you post it again, because even though Facebook has about a 24-hour cycle, sometimes it can go up to 48 hours of where it'll keep showing that post to people. So you don't want to miss any of that organic reach and make it mess up by sharing it again too quickly. You can share it again like after a couple days, but if you do, again, make sure you share context. Like, don't just share the post again. This time add your own 1 to 2 sentences at the top that's different than what you originally posted, because otherwise it looks like you're just posting the same thing over and over and over, and people will get tired of that. So another thing, so Facebook algorithm is like one of those mysteries that everyone, is always wondering about. Well, thankfully, I'm a member of many Facebook groups of people who have like contacts that work for Facebook and give, basically tips and tricks about how the algorithm works. You don't want to post anything too close together. So let's say you do post 2 things in one day. Don't post them within 2 hours of each other, because they'll start to mess with each other, and you won't get as much reach as if you wait a few hours to post again. So if you post at like 10 a.m., don't post again until after 12. So that 2 hours is kind of the amount of time that you need between the posts, at least 2 hours. I do this a lot, even though you're not supposed to, but don't include links inside of a post if you don't need to. According to Social Insider, posts without links receive double the engagement of posts with link insertions. So when I say a link, I'm not saying like the whole post is a link, like a link to an article. I'm saying you have a photo post, and inside that photo post, you say, for more information, click here, and you have a link, right? Now, you can do that. I do that a lot on the page, and it still works all right. But what Social Insider is telling us is that if you include the link somewhere else, like say to register, look in the comments or whatever, and then in the comments section is where you would say to register, click here, and put the link there. That can sometimes help increase your engagement, because for some reason, I don't know why, again, the mystery of the algorithm, Facebook doesn't seem to like links inside of a post. I don't know why, but that's just one of Facebook's little quirks. You want your copy to be as short as possible, concise, and SEO optimized. That's search engine optimization, which is basically keywords. So Facebook shows up in Google search results a lot. So the things that you post on Facebook can show up in Google search. So that's why you want to make sure that you're using the keywords. Sorry, there's a fly. You want to use the keywords that are going to help people find your posts. According to CoSchedule, the target word count is around 111 characters. And then you can use emojis, just don't use too many of them. All right, comments, shares, and likes are all indicators of how valuable your social content is to your followers. And here's how it goes. Okay, likes are the bottom. Like, so, you like likes, but they're not the best. They're the lowest. Then reactions, then comments, then tags, then shares. Let me show you. So on Facebook, I'm going to go back up to so up here we have, you can like the post, right? So I can like the post. Or if I hover over the like button, then I see these reactions, right? So a like is the bottom. Any of these reactions is a little bit better than the like. So if I love it, even better. That's going to show Facebook that I like it just a little bit more. It gives this post a little bit more weight than it did if I just like it. Why? I think it's because you have to do one extra step of hovering and then choosing something, whereas otherwise you just click a button. So it takes a little bit extra effort to choose one of the reactions. And it doesn't matter if you're loving it or laughing at it or hating it, they're all the same. All the reactions are the same. Which is why a lot of the negative content where people, do the mad faces because they don't like it, you're still giving that post a lot of clout because of that reaction. Just FYI. So that's the like. Then you have the reaction. Then you have the comment, which is, just commenting something like, this is great. And then commenting. So a comment is even better because obviously it takes a little more effort to comment than just to like or react. And then the next one was, I think it was tags. Yeah. So a tag would be like if I wanted to say, oh, look, I'm going to tell Willie Nelson, this is great. So not only am I commenting, but I'm tagging somebody else, and whoever I'm tagging is going to see that I tagged them in this post. And so then they're going to see the post and of course want to see what I said and why I tagged them. And then the last one is share. So sharing, you can share to a page. Well, normally you can just share to your, hold on, let me switch to Jolene. Because I was the page, now I'm Jolene. So now I can share to my feed, I can make it in my story, I could share to someone in Messenger, I can do all of these different things. Sharing to my feed puts it on my Facebook page, my personal Facebook page. So obviously if you're willing to share it, that gives it the most clout. And Facebook goes, oh, this is a pretty good post if people are sharing it. So you can see how there's kind of like this pyramid of how it gets a little bit, you get a little bit more and more bang for your buck, I guess, if, you know, people share the post over just liking it. Of course, the ideal is that they react to it, they comment, tag, and share, like do all of the above. Like that's the gold standard, right? All right. Oops, that is not the right one. Sorry, I wasn't sure how to go back and forth. The next one is if a post gets 0 likes or interaction within 8 to 12 hours of posting, delete it and repost at a different day or time. I call those loser posts. So if those posts, if you post something and within a few hours, this says 8 to 12, I say within like 4 hours, if nobody has liked it, nobody has commented or shared, like no interaction at all, I delete it and I try again later. If it happens again, then I go, maybe this is a bad post and I need to rethink it. But yeah, you want to delete posts like that because they will mess with your importance in the Facebook algorithm. If Facebook sees that you've posted a whole bunch of posts that get 0 interaction, they're going to go, oh, this page doesn't post anything that people care about. And they will not show your stuff to as many people. So if you take, it's a law of averages. So if you take out those posts that don't have any interaction, then that helps boost those posts that do. And it makes it look like, oh, look, I do have people that care about what I'm posting. The next thing is Facebook videos. The best results are if you upload the video directly to Facebook. There's a lot of times where we'll post something to YouTube and then want to share our video, our YouTube video on Facebook. But if you have the video, the original video, you're the owner of the video, the best thing to get results on Facebook is to post it directly to Facebook. It gets a lot more interaction because again, Facebook wants people to stay on Facebook and it wants you to create things on Facebook. It doesn't want you taking people off of Facebook to view something. So posting the video directly to Facebook gets a lot more attention than if you post a video or post a link to a video on YouTube or somewhere else. If possible, make sure your videos have closed captioning. I know that the statistics not on here, but I think it's like 80% of people on Facebook like to listen to the videos on silent, like with the video muted. So if you can have closed captioning, that's great. Also, of course, to try to be inclusive as possible. The most engagement are the videos between 2 to 5 minutes. That's on Facebook. And if you're posting directly to Facebook, now if this is a video you made for multiple platforms, like especially if it's going on YouTube or whatever else, if you can put it in the vertical format, you know, like here's my phone, verticals up and down. You know, on YouTube, you want it to be like this because you can get more in there. But on Facebook, if you're making a video specifically for Facebook or TikTok, you want to make it in a vertical format because people are watching it on their phones usually. And so you want it to be, you want to maximize the space. All right, who's on Facebook? This actually surprised me, but 56% of Facebook users are male and 44% of Facebook users are female. The largest demographic is between the ages of 25 and 35, which again, kind of surprised me because everyone talks about how, oh, it's all boomers on Facebook, right? Well, a lot of these millennials are lying because they are on Facebook too. They just don't want to admit it. But over 1/3 of Facebook's audience is over the age of 45. And then there's actually quite a bit of people, 26.4% are millennials. And then 23.8 are 18 to 24. 69% of US adults use Facebook. That's a really high amount of people that use Facebook. 70% and 70% of Facebook users claim that they visit the site daily, with 49% checking the platform several times per day. I will admit I am one of those 49% of people that check several times a day. Now, granted, it's part of my job, so I can at least use that as an excuse. But yeah, so Facebook, the whole point is Facebook, a lot of people use Facebook. And then this is something that's also really helpful to know is 2/3 of adult users consume news through Facebook. So instead of watching the news on TV or wherever else, they're getting their news through Facebook. And then a lot of other people through other things like Twitter or TikTok. Okay, let's talk about Twitter. Best practices for Twitter. This is just, something you pretty much already know. Log in at least once per day to monitor messages, tags, comments, and retweets. Make sure you're answering questions and responding to comments quickly. Interact with other accounts by retweeting their content and liking and or commenting on their tweets. I will say, I know I'm not going to go into Twitter too much as far as like what's going on with Twitter right now, and whether or not we should be on Twitter or not. That's something that the League of Women Voters of Texas is going to be talking about in the future, about whether we want to stay on Twitter or not with everything that's going on. But for now, we're still in. So if you're on Twitter, one of the best ways to increase not only your own reach, but just your name recognition is by interacting with other people. Twitter is a great place to comment on things, retweet things, because like with Facebook, they have where you really don't want to post too much, because if you post like within 2 hours, then it gets a little bit less attention. Well, on Twitter, you can post as many times as you want. You can post and post and post and post and post. So Twitter is one of those sites where you can just go crazy with how much you post and how much you interact. And one of the best things about Twitter is that that's where a lot of the politicians are, our elected leaders, our news media, our partner organizations, a lot of the nonprofits are on there. So Twitter is one of the places where you can interact with those groups a lot better. And again, getting your name out there, the best way to do it is by interacting with other people's content. I mean, it's great to post your own as well, but, just retweeting or sometimes requoting. Let me show you what that looks like. So let's say that I go to, here's the campaign school, and I want to retweet one of their posts like this one. So I can either, again, you can like it. I could just click retweet and it'll retweet it if I click retweet, or I can quote retweet. So that means I get to add my own. Again, like with Facebook, where I wanted to add 1 to 2 sentences for context, you can do that on Twitter as well. So I could say, this is great. I'm just putting that because it's quick. And then I could tweet it. So then not only does it show what I wanted to retweet, but it looks like it's original content and it has my take on it. I mean, obviously, I would probably want to say something a little more profound than this is great, but for our purposes, that's as good as it's going to get for now. And then the other thing you can do is you can comment on the post, and your reply will get tweeted out as well. So again, you can comment, or you can retweet with a quote. What do they quote tweet? So those are the different things you can do with Twitter. But again, interacting with other people's content it's key on Twitter. Again, you can post multiple times a day on Twitter. And then you definitely want to use hashtags on Twitter. You don't need to use hashtags on Facebook. Nobody really uses them on Facebook. On Twitter, though, people do like hashtags. So you can use hashtags. Depends on, because Twitter has I forget if it's 20 or 40 character limit. So you can't post too much on Twitter. I mean, as far as like, you can't make like a huge long thing. Like Facebook, you could write a book almost, but Twitter, you got to keep it a little shorter. So sometimes you can't have more than 2 or 3 hashtags, and really you don't need more than 2 or 3 hashtags. And it's great if you can put the hashtag in the content instead of just at the end. Putting it at the end is fine, but if you say the hashtag inside of the post, then just use the hashtag instead. And then the last thing is telling stories using threads. I put in here this next thing, how to create a Twitter thread. We are not going to teach that today because we don't have time, but if anyone wants to learn more about that at another time, I'm happy to talk about it. But it's here, so we will have that in the presentation whenever we send that out to everyone. All right, best practices for Instagram. Same as Facebook. I don't know if you know, but Instagram is owned by Facebook, so they're the same people. So same rules apply for them, 3 to 5 times a week. But the difference is you can post stories in Instagram, and I'll show you what those are in just a second. But you can post up to 5. Well, no, you can post as many stories a day as you want, but the stat is post up to 5 stories per day to ensure a retention rate of over 70%. So basically, you'll get more attention the more stories you post. And they suggest up to 5. That's a little bit, that's a lot, but so you might not have time to do that. But anytime you post something on your Instagram feed, you should always post a story as well. And you can do stories without posting content. So let me just show you an Instagram really quick. So this is your Instagram feed. These are all the things that we've posted on Instagram. For stories, let's see, go to the home feed. So your home feed is where you see everybody else's content, correct? So like, I am El Paso. I see this. But if you go up here, these are the stories. So if I click on this, I'm going to see their story. And then I can go to the next story and the next story. And the next story. The thing about stories is that they're chronological. So this feed here, you could see like this is 2 days ago, 29 minutes ago, 2 days, 3 weeks, 6 hours, 2 days. It's not chronological. These just show up. Again, mysterious algorithm determines, what's going to show up and when, but they're not chronological. The stories, however, are chronological. So if you're posting a story a few times a day, and let's say I'm someone that I log in to Instagram every day during lunch, so around 12 o'clock, then if you post at like 11:30, 11:45, and I log in at 12, you're going to be one of the first stories I see. So that's one of the really great things about stories in Instagram is that since it's chronological, you can, get people seeing your content here in the stories when they might not see it in their feed. The other thing that's cool about it is you can share any of your posts as a story at any time. So I could go in here and say, I would like to share something about Eleanor Roosevelt. I don't know if I can do it on the computer. I'm used to using my phone to do things for Instagram, so I'm not sure how much you can do. I don't think you can post on the desktop. I think you can only look on the desktop. But you'd be able to create a story from an old post. Or like, let's say you had something you were posting about an upcoming event you had, right? You could post your flyer here, and then you could share it to your story every day for the next 2 weeks. So you don't have to repost the post, but you could just keep sharing it as a story every 24 hours because the stories only last 24 hours. Like you post it, 24 hours later, it's gone. It doesn't show up anywhere. So like you can also, if you don't want to have, because one thing about Instagram is the aesthetics, right? A lot of people want the feed to look pretty, right? So you might not want to post like a flyer on your Instagram feed because it might make it look a little cluttered, especially if you have several flyers. So what you could do instead is just post the flyer solely to your story. And you could keep reposting that flyer to your story as many times as you want. It wouldn't show up in your Instagram feed here, but it would show up in the stories. And I can tell you that one of the big groups of people who uses Instagram are Gen Z. So if you are trying to reach younger people, Instagram and TikTok, obviously, but Instagram is one of the best places to do it. I used to run the social media for the Cedar Creek Athletic Booster Club at our high school. And I had to post on Instagram. We had Facebook was for the parents, Twitter was for the coaches and the recruiters and the news, and then Instagram was for the students. And so those were the three things we had. We had 3 different audiences. So we posted in different ways on each of those platforms. But Instagram definitely is used a lot by the Gen Z. All 3 of my kids, I have 3 teenagers, all 3 of them use Instagram. And I'll tell you that most of them don't really look at the feed. They only look at stories. So stories are definitely important on Instagram. Okay, again, Instagram lets you use hashtags. They're more important on Instagram than they are on Facebook. And you can use up to 30 hashtags on Instagram. And you can put them in your main post, or you can put them in a comment on your main post. So it doesn't matter if it's in the comment or if it's in the main content, like the caption of the post, but you can put as many hashtags as you want. Hashtags are a good way to get seen more in Instagram. Use carousel posts on Instagram for more engagement and likes. So in Instagram, and I'll show you again in a minute, you can when you do a post, you don't have to post just one image. You can post up to 10 images in one post. So let's go back to Instagram and let's see if I can show you one. I know we have a couple. It's just a matter of finding them. Here we go. Here's one that has more than one. So you can see up here, this little icon here too, this little black white box that shows that there's more than one photo. So I click on this and I can scroll through. Oh, that only had 2. That also only had 2. See, so you can scroll through several different images. One of the good things about that is that, oh, here's a good one, misinformation and disinformation. And you have like lots of information about that in 4 different images. The good thing about that is, let's say I'm on Instagram and I'm looking through my regular feed, not here, but on my home feed. So I'm looking through this. And let's say this post has more than one image. I look at this one, and then later on, I close Instagram and I come back. If this, it's not going to usually show me the same post again, but if it had more than one image, it'll show me a different image in that set of images. So having more than one image in a post is a great way to get that post seen more than once by the same person. I hope that made sense. All right, back to our slideshow. Oops, nope. Okay, if your goal is to drive conversations, video posts receive the most comments. You can post videos on Instagram as well. It doesn't have to just be images. And then you want to keep your captions short, but include emojis. Again, who's on Instagram the most? The younger folks. And they are prone to use emojis, although use them the right way or they'll call you cringe. I've learned that the hard way. All right, we'll briefly talk about TikTok. We're not going to talk about best practices for TikTok right now, mainly because we're still in the early stages of TikTok ourselves, but we will talk about really quickly who uses TikTok. First of all, it was the most downloaded app of 2021 with 656 million downloads. So TikTok is on the rise. That's one of the reasons we wanted to jump on board, is because there are so many people using TikTok now. It's surpassed Instagram for popularity among Gen Z users in the US. And they're making big gains in other demographics. In the first quarter of 2021, 36% of TikTok users were between 35 and 54 years old, compared to 26 in 2020. So more people are using it in the older demographics as well. And this 35 to 54, that's me, and I have my own TikTok as well. I blame my children back in the pandemic during 2020. So that's their fault. Worldwide, TikTok users base is 57% female. In the US, it's actually 61%. And so if you're looking to reach younger female audiences, TikTok is the place to be. All right, a few best practices, just overall general best practices. Research and understand your audience. Who is your target audience? Again, we were talking a little bit about who's on TikTok, who's on Instagram, who's on Facebook. If you want to know where the men are on Facebook and Twitter. So looking at who is your audience and which is the best platform to use to reach that audience. Having specific content strategies for each social network. Again, there's different types of people who are on each of the different platforms. And so it helps to know, who am I trying to reach with this platform? Again, looking at, when I was doing the social media for the Athletic Booster Club, when we're posting things on Facebook, we know we're marketing toward the parents. Those are the things where you want them to be able to know where the game is, when the game is, all the details about the game. Instagram, the kids already know. You don't have to tell them the details of the game. Same thing with Twitter. You might put it on there, but you're going to put it in a different way. It's mainly to try to share information for, any coaches out there who are trying to do any recruiting. You want to try to get their attention, or the news media. So we were using the social media for three different audiences.
All right, y'all, good morning.
Again, you want to respond quickly to comments and messages. Quick response times aren't only appreciated, they're expected. When someone posts a question or a comment on a Facebook post, typically they expect you to reply right away. That's not, that's not going to happen most times, but that's what people just kind of expect in this world of, being able to just call someone and then immediately, they answer because they have a phone with them at all times.
He was sloppy drunk, got handsy immediately, and then refused to listen to me when I was like, not into it, bro.
I think someone needs to mute.
And listen to music and just no, please stop.
What?
And he didn't. So I left after 30 minutes.
I can't tell who it is.
And then he said, "Oh, I'm sorry, you interpreted."
Could you mute, please?
Like the wrong way.
Ellis, can you tell who it is?
Dorothy, your mic is on. I'm also going to send it in the chat.
Okay, it stopped. Okay, so globally, 83% of customers expect a response to social media inquiry within 24 hours, and 28% expect an answer within an hour. So we've kind of gotten to where we expect things to happen quickly, That's why you should really check in on your social media accounts at least once a day. Also, don't oversaturate. That does not apply to Twitter. That only applies to Facebook and Instagram. Don't oversaturate. Be strategic in when and how often you post. And you can repurpose evergreen content when possible. That means it's content that you can use throughout the year. It's not something that, like for instance, we do obviously a lot of get out the vote. You can repurpose information about registering to vote, but you're not going to be, reusing information about specific elections. So evergreen content is content that you can use whenever. They're not related to specific events or campaigns and can be used easily in a pinch to cover a content gap. That's something else. Like we have a lot of historical posts that we like to post. Now, those are obviously specific days typically, but they're good, especially when we don't have, like, we weren't posting quite as many of them when we were posting about the election. Also using some of your most popular posts as evergreen content. Like if it is something that can be reposted later, and it could be a few months later, then here's a little quote. Your prospects need to come across your message at least 7 times before they notice it and take action. So if there is something that you're really wanting to get out there, then the typical thing is 7 times. And I'm not saying you have to post something 7 times because, especially if you're posting it every day for, a week, then people are not going to like that. But the point is, if you have a specific message you're trying to get out there, maybe say it 7 times, but in 7 different types of posts, like maybe a photo and then a link to something. And, so you can put things out there, but try not to ever post the same exact thing in the same exact way. At least not within, at least a few days. I'd say at least a few weeks, but at least a few days. All right, Ellis.
Yeah, okay, so I just have some really quick stuff about political communications, some research findings. So as we know, social pressure is really important part for getting for voter outreach. Specifically, the threat of social disapprobation for not voting is really important for increasing turnout, but more broadly, emphasizing voting as a social norm is very effective as well. But it's also important to recognize that these social pressures are weaker during primary elections, just because more people are more likely to go out and vote during the general elections and presidential elections. But relatedly, in-group admiration is also a really big part of why people go vote. So people are more likely to go vote if they think that the people in their group are going to know and be impressed by it. So targeting people who are members of in-groups, like if they're members of a sports team or students at a school, something like that, if you link those identities to voting, it's shown to be very helpful. So that's just one thing about voter outreach. And then Jolene, I think the next slide. So yeah, we talked a bit about social media. Obviously, young people especially are very respondent to social media. In 2018, more young people heard about the election on social media than through traditional outreach, partly because traditional outreach is usually based on voter registration, so it might not reach newer and younger voters. So that's just something to keep in mind. And social media is also helpful to demonstrate voting as a visible social norm. So you guys might be familiar with the Facebook I voted button. I have a picture of it here. I think that's from a few years ago. But research has shown that, so the button is basically, you say I voted, and it says it tells your friends, it shows your friends that you voted. And research has shown that people who saw that button, along with the message showing which of their friends had voted, were more likely to vote than if they were shown an informational message. So that just drives home the point of how important social pressure is on social media and otherwise in getting people to vote. Yeah, and I just wanted to talk a bit about inequality and get out the vote efforts. When doing research on this, I came across this, and I think it's just important to be aware. So traditional wisdom in get out the vote efforts is often divides voters into low propensity, mid propensity, and high propensity voters. Low propensity being those who only show up for presidential elections, and high propensity being they always show up. So often, especially for candidates and campaigns, they say like it's best to only contact the low propensity voters like once or twice before the election. But however, some research has shown in the next slide that can exacerbate the participation gap between low propensity and high propensity voters. So get out the vote efforts typically target, as I said, the high propensity voters, the people who are already more likely to vote. And it does mobilize them, which is great. It increases turnout, but it means that the low propensity voters remain relatively unrepresented and means that we still have an unbalanced electorate. So there are reasons for this. High propensity voters are generally like have higher education or more political knowledge, and so they might be respond more to the get out the vote effort, and they might be more inclined to vote in the first place. And they're also often easier to contact. However, part of the reason that low propensity voters, like they might have higher costs associated with voting, as I'm sure you guys know, like, but yeah, it might mean more for them to go out and vote. So for them, emphasizing the benefits of voting might be more necessary than for high propensity voters. And I think that's just something to keep in mind because a lot of what the League of Women Voters does is voter outreach. So just something to consider. But yeah, that was pretty much it.
Thank you, Ellis. And she has her bibliography. You can tell she's a college student. She has her bibliography there. So if you want to read more about any of the things she was talking about, she has links to the information, which is awesome. I did not do that for my stats, but I do think that some of them have at least who said it. So you can try to find it. Yeah, that's awesome. So that's the end of the presentation. I'm happy to take any questions. I did not monitor the chat, so I don't know what's happening in the chat, so I apologize for that. But I will take any questions in the last, like, we've got about 7 minutes, if anyone has any questions. Luann?
This is a very specific question.
Sure.
I noticed, I just took over our Facebook page and I noticed we received an invitation from a local high school women's basketball team to be a sponsor. So the person who was doing it before me was not accepting these and suggested I find out how to stop them. But before I did that, I wanted to know what the league's position was on us doing something like that and what the advantages were. If we would like show up on their feed or, you know.
Are you talking about being like they're asking you to be a co-host of an event?
You know, I would have to actually go back. I think I kept a picture of it. Let me take a quick look here.
Hold on, I'm going to share my screen again and go back to Facebook. Because I can show you, I'm not managing the account anymore, but the Cedar Creek Athletic Booster Club gets hosting requests.
Yes, it was a co-hosting.
Okay, let me go to one. Let's see, where were they? Events. They get 1 million, but they're all spam. Okay, come on. Come on. Of course, it's going to take a second to load.
So
see, like they have like all of these.
Oh, yes. Okay.
But all of these, I'm telling you, all of these are people who are trying to, it's all spam, and they're trying to get people to go to a video feed of an event that's not real, but you have to pay to access it.
Oh, okay.
So all of these, and like I said, I'm not the one managing it anymore. Otherwise, these would all already be declined. But so you can definitely decline, obviously. No one will see that they even asked. If you did want to accept, you can accept a co-host request, but only if it's something that you definitely want to be associated with. That's where it gets into, like, I mean, obviously, if it's like, let's say your local Chamber of Commerce is hosting a candidate forum and wants the League of Women Voters to be a co-host. That's something, because it's a candidate forum, then you could probably say, yes, we do want to be involved. But if it were me, I'd be like, well, sure, we can co-host it with you, but what are we getting out of it? Like, do we get to be at the event, and how are we going to be involved? You know, that kind of thing. But because it's nonpartisan, yes, obviously you could be a part of that.
Okay.
And obviously if a candidate is like, hey, will you co-host this event with me? It's like, well, no, obviously no. But if it's like a high school and they're wanting to do a voter registration drive on their own, but they want the League of Women Voters to co-host, again, I don't think that would be a bad thing, but it would be like, okay, I don't want you to just use my name. It would be like, how are we involved? Like,
Okay.
how can we actually be part of this event? Like, this is awesome that you're doing this. You know, we're happy to co-host, but how can we be involved other than name only? You know, that
So
kind of thing.
does that mean that the event, we actually might be participating in real life, not just on Facebook?
I think if you're going to co-host, you should be involved in real life at some level. But you don't have to be. I mean, you could just co-host the event to help them promote the event. All it does is then show up when you go to your event tab on your Facebook page. Look at all of these. This is ridiculous. Hold on, I'm gonna have to use the big button. Oh my goodness. Oh, no upcoming events, but past events, you know, so it would show up as an upcoming event on your tab. And that's pretty much all that would happen. That, and then you would show up as a co-host if anyone clicked on the event. So you can or don't have to be involved in real life, but I personally think that it's best if you're involved. If you're going to co-host it in name only, it seems like, well, why not have a presence there as well, whether it's passing out membership brochures or depending on the event, obviously, and what they'll allow. I'm sorry, someone had a question, had their hand up.
Jolene, I think it was me, Pat.
Oh, Pat, yes.
And I think you answered the question. Luann had brought it up. So I was curious as to whether these invitations to co-sponsor or co-host were just social media things or whether they were real ones. And in which case, you know, our local leagues perhaps have procedures where because we vet the other organization and make sure they're nonpartisan. I mean, I don't know that we would necessarily respond on a social media site. We would probably communicate with that group and see what they have in mind. And
yes, exactly.
Thanks.
Yeah. And like, for instance, we did an event, the election worker and advocate training, and we did that with, which group was it? With Disability Rights Texas. And so I created the event on Facebook and asked them to be a co-host of the event on Facebook. They were already obviously co-hosting the event with us in real life. So when I created the Facebook event, I asked them to co-host the Facebook event as well. So that's typically where you want to do co-hosting kind of things, is where you're actually co-hosting the event in real life. And then you create one of the groups creates a Facebook event, and then you want to include the other groups as well. Same thing with on the assault rifle seminar. We did that in conjunction with the NAACP and LULAC. Neither of them were able to, like, they don't have as big of a Facebook presence, the Texas chapters. And so we didn't have them as co-hosts of the Facebook event. But, you know, the only thing that does is, again, it just kind of increases the reach a little bit, adding a co-host. So it's not something you have to do. In fact, they could have had their own Facebook event and we could have had our own Facebook event, and, you know, it's all fine. But it just helps multiply the effect if you have one event and more than one co-host, you know. All right, well, it's 1:30. And I really appreciate everyone being here today. I will stay on for a few minutes if anyone does have any like specific questions. But I'm really happy that y'all were here, and I hopefully, oops. I meant to stop the share, not stop the video. But we look forward to hopefully seeing some of y'all at the communications meeting that we're going to be scheduling for January. I don't know the date yet, but we'll let you know probably in the president's update. So thank you all for being here.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.
I have a quick question.
Sure.
Yeah, our president, Diane, we're in Dallas, had suggested at the last meeting that we vote at the next meeting on eliminating our Twitter account.
Mhm.
And I was wondering, is anyone else doing that? I mean, her thought was that, Elon is creating all this anti-Semitic, chatter, and that, we, the league, shouldn't be supporting that.
That's something that I think that the local league is gonna have to decide for itself. I can tell you the Texas League, we haven't, our board hasn't voted on it yet and hasn't really discussed. It's something that has been brought up and hasn't been, discussed or voted on yet. But we're having the same.
Are you having the same discussion?
The same
Okay.
discussion.
Yeah,
They just haven't come to a decision yet.
Yeah, I haven't quite decided where I come out on that.
Yeah.
It's sort of a, do you stay and, continue to sort of, inform people of correctly with all that in the background or not? I mean, I just don't know. Okay.
Yeah, it's a tough decision to make. And I don't really have a lot of good advice on what to do about it. I can tell you, one of the main reasons that we have a Twitter account in the first place is to, see what legislators are posting. Also the news, what's the media posting? What are the media talking about? And then whatever we see that they're posting, sharing that information if it's relevant. So a lot of the news stories that we share come from Twitter.
Right.
And then a lot of our partner organizations, like on Facebook, it's mainly individuals that we interact with and see information from. But Twitter, it's more, the elected officials, the news, and the
and all the other voting groups. I know they're all there.
Exactly.
No, I know. Yeah. So
it's tough.
Right. Okay. So this is probably going to come up in Dallas in next month.
Yeah. As it should. And I'm sure that once our board makes a decision about something, that they'll, put something in, either the president's update or whatever, just saying, here's what we decided, and then maybe give some guidance to other
we
groups.
could use some guidance, I think.
I'll pass that along. I know they're already talking about it, but I don't think they've thought about providing the guidance to the local leagues
the
yet.
rest of us. Yeah.
So I think
I
they're just
hate
worried
to
about what to
lose-
do for themselves.
Right. I understand. Okay, so one other point while you're here is, I just put it in the chat, is that we've been trying to get feedback from young people about the ones who didn't vote, the non-voters. And we got a lot of discussion about people that ran into obstacles. So lots of people that, requested a mail ballot and just didn't get it. Lots of people that realized that they couldn't go home, but didn't know about the whole limited ballot thing until it was too late, right? Till the day of, and then you couldn't do a limited ballot on the day of. So, we have a lot of feedback from people that had a lot of obstacles. So that's just, keeping that in the background. It's not an easy problem to solve. It feels very daunting to me to try to figure out how to explain all the rules to all the young people. Okay, so that's that one is.
Well, and I know the whole thing about them not doing the limited ballot or not knowing that they should have, they were registered at home and were trying to vote where they go to school. I know that they talked about that in the voter services meeting. So I know Dorothy
knows about it.
Yeah.
Right.
And so, I'm sure going into the next election, we'll probably be trying to figure out what is I'm sure we'll probably, I have a feeling we'll probably create a video
I was gonna
about
say,
that.
if there's a way to do a series of
Yeah.
videos, and the problem with voting, the voting law, I mean, voting is kind of fun, but voting laws are kind of boring. And so it's hard to put that in a video. You know,
Yeah,
they just keep, but anyways, if there's any way to put it in a video. And then my last thought is that the other piece we heard from people when we were asking questions, and we've been asking people to survey students and stuff. Is it literally there are people that just felt like they thought something was going to happen. Like people thought somebody was going to say, oh, now's the time to go vote, or they like someone was going to invite them. And
oh,
that we literally got feedback that a lot of young people did not know that you just go. And I know that sounds dumb,
yeah,
but
no,
it was, but we heard it enough that it made me
Right.
go, oh my God. I mean, because these people are all, we do a lot of work at the community colleges. These are very new voters.
right,
So I just want to share that with you because like sometimes there's things they don't know that seem obvious to us.
yeah,
That they don't know. And it's a kind of thing you could somewhere put in social media, like, hey, you're invited to go vote. You know, I was thinking, I wish we had done that, but we didn't.
Yeah.
So anyways,
no, that's a good point. And especially like if they've never seen their parents vote.
a lot
Or-
of them have not seen their parents' votes.
Because like I know we always, when our kids were little, would take them with us.
Mhm, mhm.
So they always saw us voting.
Yeah, no, we're definitely working with a community that does not have parents necessarily that vote. If we're working a
Right.
lot in the Hispanic community and the
Mhm.
community colleges, and they don't really have role models.
Yeah,
So I mean, we're trying to get the teachers to do a better job of that and that
Yeah.
kind of stuff. But in the meantime, just something to think about.
yeah, no, thank you. I appreciate it.
All right, well, that's all. I don't want to take all your time.
All right, thanks, Barbara.
Okay.